Hope everyone had a great holiday. Before we begin, I want to just say that this is an open law meeting, and I just have to read this from Governor Baker. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This public meeting of the Lawrence Airport Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. By the public can listen and or view this meeting while in progress by use of the Facebook and YouTube web access sites referred below. Okay, this is Thursday, January 21st, 6:30 p.m. And can I have a roll call? Carla, please.
Sharon Birchall.
Here.
Andres Castillo.
Here.
Bill Collins.
Here.
Danya Amador Matis. Ernest Quartermash.
Here.
Jack Fitzpatrick. Dan Foley.
Yeah.
Bob Irving.
Yeah.
William Pedrick.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Carla.
You're welcome.
First thing, airports minutes from November 19th. I need a approval, please. A motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer one correction to the minutes.
Sure.
In section 8 on adjournment, upon talking to the airport manager, there's just a slight error. The name Castillo should be Quartermash. It's section 8 at the end of the minutes.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor to approve with the exception of the from Commissioner Collins?
So
Remark
Motion made.
from Commissioner.
Castillo.
Do we have a second?
Second, Bob Irving.
Commissioner Irving, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Reports, Finance Committee.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy New Year, and I hope you can hear me quite well.
Yes.
Good, perfect. I did send a complete package out last week, and this afternoon I did send out 2 updated sheets. I hope everybody got them.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Now, starting with the first report, which is our revenue and expense statement, I'm going to refer to the updated sheet, one of them that was sent this afternoon. That was the revenue expense sheet, December 2020, fiscal year 2021. And looking at that, we do have an excess of revenues for December 2020 in the amount of $22,608.77. That brings us to a fiscal year overage or excess of revenues in the amount of $68,687.05. That is the revenue and expense report. Are there any questions to that specific report here? If not, I would continue to the detailed expense report, which was very ordinary. Besides, we had some overtime. There was a snowstorm, which is during that period of time quite normal as well. So if you look through the column December 20 and go from the top to the bottom, there was really nothing out of the ordinary. That's why we could have such a nice excess of revenues. If there's no further question, I will refer to the tenant payment status. And what I'm going to compare to is the first one I did send out last week to the page I did send you this afternoon. You can see that, yes, nearly everybody paid completely off. There's one land lease outstanding that is from Pan Am. They did sell their railways, and they do have a switch of the accounting department to a different location. I already spoke to the gentleman who usually communicates with us that will be taken care of. And Eagle East owes December percentage, which we usually say it's not a big problem to owe percentages the month before because of the accounting. So everybody was quite well. I told them, please be current with your payments, especially now that we have our first meeting again for this year, and everybody complied. So you have quite good tenants, I must say.
Great job, Christine.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So we are quite well off. And this should be everything from the side of my report.
Good job. Do we have any questions, commissioners?
No, very well done, Christine.
Thank
Yes.
you, appreciate that.
Excellent
there's no-
management.
What was that?
No, excellent management of the accounts. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If nobody has any questions, do we have a motion on the floor to accept the financial report?
Castillo make a motion to accept the financial report.
Yeah,
Bill Collins, second.
perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. Great job.
My pleasure, thank you.
Okay, next is lease committee, and that would be Commissioner Collins.
Right, I don't believe, we haven't had any further discussions on the lease side. So basically, everything is the same. We are gonna meet with, pick up again in the spring with the EAA, I believe, Mike.
Yes.
And, everything is, pretty steady as far as that goes right now.
Okay, so I don't think we need to take a vote because there's nothing to discuss, right?
No
No.
new action.
Okay.
No.
All
Might
right,
have a vote just to accept the report.
all right. Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the report from Commissioner Collins?
Motion's made, Castillo.
Do I have a second?
I second Ernie Kudamash.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Collins.
Thank you.
Airport security, Commissioner Foley, you're up.
Okay, we have some good news to report. The state has approved the funding for the cost of the new security system design. I'm sure that Dominic could elaborate on it, but it's my understanding that the state had some money questions which had to be answered by Stantec. And it also had some constructive changes that they offered regarding standardization of building materials, as well as the placement of cameras on some of the existing poles that exist at the airport. In any event, we're now the proud owners of a state-approved airport security design. And the next step is going to be for the state to find the money to actually fund the job. So we have a design, and according to Mike, I spoke with him today. He's not too optimistic that it's going to happen anytime soon, getting the money from the state, the state being able to put the money together. But hope springs eternal. And anyways, we now have a design, and it's all ours. And I'm sure that Mike and Dominic will be able to elaborate if they feel like it later on. All right, so that's it. We have an approved design for a certain security system now.
All right. Do we have any questions, commissioners?
Yes.
What's the normal lag time, Mike, under normal circumstances?
They're trying to fund this on the surplus monies that they have in this year's budget. And Dominic did some good number crunching, and the design is $186,000. The construction is going to be close to 650. Dom, am I correct in that? And so I feel confident that because they committed to us that they would pay for the design this year. I have confidence that we'll get the 186, obviously, to do that. I'm not sure that they've got an extra $500,000 sitting in their coffers between now and June 30th. That's why I'm not comfortable that it will be built this year, this fiscal year. But July 1st starts the next fiscal year. Hopefully it can be programmed. A big seismic shift in transportation happened today. The Secretary of Transportation is moving on to the federal level. So maybe with the new secretary, there'll be more money going into the aeronautics division. But I know that they advocate very hard to get funding for their projects, but each project has to be justified. And I think security obviously is a good one, but I don't see them having a surplus this year, but I think they can find the funds if they have to apply for a budget and argue its value and merit next year. So I think it'll be something that'll be done probably after July 1, before June 30th of next year.
Good.
Yeah, Mike, I was just trying to unmute myself, but you're correct on the $600,000 price tag for all the security upgrades.
Any other questions from the commissioners? If not, do I have a motion on the floor to accept Commissioner Foley's report?
I make a motion. Castillo.
Do we have a second?
Second, Bob Irving.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, Commissioner Foley. Okay, old business, there's nothing, so we'll just keep that on the agenda. No table matters, no new business. Mr. Manager, you are up next.
And it was moving so quickly.
I
Now it's
know.
going to bog down. I apologize for this. First and foremost, everyone, I see everyone's here healthy. That's great. All of our staff is healthy at the airport, even though in the month of December, we did have COVID come to visit the airport environment. One of the employees in Angel Flight was feeling ill, and she initially was screened, but said not to have COVID, but then it resulted in it was COVID. But it then lay dormant for a while, but in the early January timeframe, maybe after the Christmas holidays, it hit the restaurant. A couple staff members of the restaurant had it. So all our staff has been tested, and we comply with all the city's guidelines and guidelines. We're masked, we're isolated, but so we're fine. Airport staff is fine, and the restaurant people are all back. Everyone's back. Everyone's healthy. It's funny, they see them talking about their experiences with COVID, and nothing seems to be what the optics of the national lens are. You don't see people on respirators or in hospitals. They all talked about having aches and pains. Some had aches and pains. Others just felt tired. And one had no aches or pains or wasn't tired, but she lost her sense of taste and smell. So there seems to be no rhyme, no reason as to how this affects people. But they're all back. They're all doing well. They're healthy. And our staff continues to follow the city and state and CDC guidelines. So knock on wood, we'll continue to be safe from this virus. Some of you may recall, it's been a while, but one of our tenants on the North Ramp, Charles DeRosa, Positive Start Realty, he came in back in May of 2019 to update you. His lease ended in 2018, and he's been cleaning up the site. He was a paper recycling and glass and all that. And he sold his business, but he's been cleaning up the land he leased from us. He's in his final phase of it. He's been paying us for use and occupancy while he's been working on it, but he doesn't have a lease with us. And the final phase is before the North Andover Conservation Commission. The North Andover Concom, before they'll issue an order of conditions, is curious as to what's under the ground, what's in the ground, and the material that he has there that the DEP has sanctioned is okay, but they've got a curiosity. He is not inclined to take on the expense. They want him to do some borings. So the commission asked him to reach out to the airport to see if we would split the cost since it's on our land. It's approximately thought to be about $35,000 in total, so $17,500 a piece. We have a project coming down the pike, and maybe Irv will talk about that since it's planning our DOM, where we're going to need to approach the North Andover Conservation Commission for permission to cut within their watershed, and it's part of our obstruction removal project. So my thought is, it's in goodwill, the interest of goodwill, as well as to keep the cleanup of that site over there moving forward, so we're not standing pointing fingers at everybody, that it would be advantageous for us to split the cost with Mr. DeRosa to do those borings to confirm that there's nothing there, to satisfy their curiosity, as somebody put it. But I think it would be in best interest of the airport to do that, to get this thing over expeditiously, as well as to build some goodwill with the North Andover Conservation Commission. I didn't feel comfortable authorizing that without having a discussion with the board to let you know that that's a pretty big expenditure. Clearly, I'm not going to go spend that without having some input or feedback, or at least the commission having knowledge of that. But I do think it'd be in the best interest of the commission to go that route. It's not expected, based upon Mr. DeRosa's expectation, to cost as much as $35,000, but I think that's the ceiling that everyone's looking at. So hopefully it comes in less than that. Furthermore, we have the resources to pay for it. In my next item, we'll talk about that. But as recall, we do have the $69,000 CARES Act grant that we received to offset some expenses. Plus, we bought our brand new truck last year, the Airport 5, in following procurement and disposition of surplus property rules. We put it out for auction in November and December, and the successful bidder awarded, who we accepted, the high price of $9,700 for the truck that we were replacing. So we were able to secure that. We've got the check. It's sitting on Christine's desk, and we're making that deposit into our treasury. Last week, when we were talking about the
Excuse me, Mike, how much was the truck?
9,700. Yep,
Okay,
that was
thank
the
you.
highest bid. So we're very happy. We're shocked, to be honest with you, to see it get that much money. But it's a 2006 Chevy.
Maybe we could show other city departments the proper way to dispose of surplus property. And there's a lesson learned here. Outstanding job.
Yeah, it was. We were happy with that. So actually surprised, but the auction process does work. Yeah, there was some competitive bidding on that. Part of our discussions with the security system was our new administration building. That thing is still floating around and perking at the state level, and they've indicated that they should have some definitive answers for us, whether it goes forward or not, by the end of March. They said 2 months from now, so figure February, March timeframe. It'll be nice to hear what's happening with that, because it is kind of tied into the security. We're relocating a gate based on it. We're moving an electrical vault because of it. So I really want to just find out certain that we're moving forward with this, which will be great. There is a new mayor in the city of Lawrence. Most of you are aware of that. Some of you may not be. Our existing mayor, Dan Rivera, moved on. He took a job with the Baker administration. So a home rule petition was passed, which permitted the city council president to step up and serve as mayor, not even as acting, as full-fledged mayor, until the next election takes place, which will be in November. So we've been working through that transition, and I'll have my first department head meeting with him on Monday. So I imagine we'll be fine as a department. He's been the city council president. He sees us every time we go down there for things, and particularly the budget as well. And he's always advocating on our behalf to remind the councilors that you can't cut this department to save the city any money, because the money is an enterprise account as well as it's segregated on the federal law. So he's always been an advocate for the department. So I assume we'll have the same positive relationship going forward. Back in the fall, we had the new employee come in. It was just after our commission meeting. So I think what I'm going to ask is that he attend our Zoom meeting next month, so you can meet Mr. Llewellyn. He's been doing an outstanding job. He's did everything we wanted. He's very energetic. He's interested in doing the job. He's not looking to hide. And he's making, I wish you guys could come by and see it. He's making the terminal look like it used to look like. I'm not to suggest that people haven't been doing a good job. It's just that they've been overworked. Domingo's been just trying to keep that airport together with one person. But Mr. Llewellyn brings custodial experience from the city of Haverhill, and he has the place looking like it did many years ago when we had a full complement of 3 guys. So I really want to compliment him, and I would like the commission to meet him. He came in actually the week of Thanksgiving, which was just after our commission meeting. Despite the fact we're in a COVID environment, the airport is still thriving. Bob, I don't know if you've flown, but there have been a number of operations that we've been experiencing, and it seems to be statewide. The GA airports are flourishing and the commercial airports are dying. But we have the traffic count from 2020. We had 49,986 operations. And in 2019, we only had 39,755. So we actually had a 25.74% increase over 2019. And that's during the year of COVID. So we've been very fortunate. You saw it in Christine's report. The funding is there. I mean, the revenues are coming in. We're actually surpassing what we had collected previous years. We're tracking in positive integers, both in operations and revenue. So I'm very happy with that. We're very fortunate in that respect. I believe that is it. I know I wrote down a lot of stuff here. Tomorrow, the state is trying to demonstrate the benefits of drones to the FAA. And in December, they called and asked if they could use our airport as the site that the FAA, because I guess the administrator lives up in north of Boston and it was convenient for her. So they want to come and demonstrate how they can be used for different reasons on an airport, survey work, safety inspections, stuff of that nature. So the state called, they were going to do it in December, but we had that snowstorm that Christine talked about, and they called on Tuesday and they asked if they can come up tomorrow. So tomorrow afternoon, we will be the hosting facility where the State Aeronautics Division will be demonstrating the benefits of drones and use on airports to the regional administrator for the FAA, the New England region, as well as her number 2. And their staff and entourage will be coming. So we have to do it in a COVID-friendly environment. We'll be in the operations, the maintenance garage, and it's about a half hour they expect the demonstration to take place, but everyone is going to be distanced and stay 6 feet apart and wear your mask and all that. So if anyone is around who would like to come up and see it, there's plenty of room out on the ramp. We can stand safely apart from each other. But it should be interesting to see the demonstration to the FAA. It's always nice to have the key people in the region on our airport. And I think Bob and Dom and Irv can speak to that.
Do you know
And
what time they're coming, Mike? Or can you send us?
Well,
an email?
they're coming in initially at 11 o'clock to start the setup, but the dignitaries, the important people, as I was told, will be showing up at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
So between 1:30 and 2, I imagine they'll start showing up. So we can just, again, socially distance from each other and stay out, and that'll be fine. And Christine is asking if we need to mention Pan Am. I think it might be Pan Am submitted a request to put a storage shed behind their building. But I told them it wouldn't be addressed in this commission meeting. It'll be the next commission meeting. But I'll bring it up now. What they're doing is, as she said, they sold the railroad. So they're being told to get their aircraft parts out of one of the railroad buildings. So they need to put a large garden shed, for lack of a better term, 14 feet by 26 behind their existing building. But they sent site plan and drawings and all that, and they'll be included in next month's package. And we'll take it from there. And I believe that's it.
Mike,
Yes,
you said that's gonna be tomorrow?
yes, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, they plan on doing the demonstration.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Anybody have any questions on the manager's report for Mike?
Yes, I have a question for Mike.
Okay, Commissioner.
Mike, under the new mayor, are you expecting any change for the time being where he is in power?
I don't believe so. I think it's going to be, he's just going to continue whatever was in the pipeline going forward. He's only there until November, but he does have full authority as a mayor. He can do hiring and firing and policy changes, whatever he'd like, but I don't anticipate any change coming from him. I'll probably have a better understanding after Monday's department head meeting. That'll be my first meeting with him when he's sitting as the mayor. The mayor held exit interviews with each department head. He participated in some of those exit interviews, but I know that he wasn't present with mine. So I took that as being no issue. You know, didn't have to be there to inquire or have a problem with us. He knows how to reach me. We've communicated in the past on other issues. So if there's a problem, I'm sure there'll be a direct communication with me.
Okay,
Yeah, I expect it will be, he's the mayor, but I expect it's going to continue initiatives that are in the pipeline. Although he did put a spending freeze in the city, but it's on general fund stuff. But we can request permission to spend our money because it's not going to strengthen the bottom line of the fund balance of the city. So
I think he's on the council too, and when we have to go in front of him to get renewed. So I think he knows.
yeah, he's been an advocate for us the entire time.
Yes, yes.
So I think we're fine.
Good guy. Yep.
Yep.
Any other questions for the manager? If not, do we have a motion on the floor to accept the manager's report?
I make a motion.
Commissioner Collins first,
I make a
Commissioner
motion.
Castillo second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Mike. Great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll have more good news next month.
Okay. All right. Public comments. Anybody? Dan, Bob, Irvin, anybody want to speak? Irvin?
Ir-
You have to unmute him.
Irv, you're on mute.
Okay.
Don't jump down my throat, Tom. Give me a second.
You're on
No,
mute.
I thought Mike had to unmute.
We use Teams all day long.
All right.
And the buttons all over the place. So anyhow.
I always forget to unmute myself. So.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I want to go over two quick projects that I've been working on.
Sure.
Mike briefly talked about the obstruction analysis. The analysis is essentially done. We have all the data and we've created all the graphics. We've had one of our young planners going through and identifying the parcels where there are obstructions in the event that we have to clear them. The good news is that we looked at a lot of different surfaces, and without getting all the details, there's probably a half dozen different imaginary or airspace surfaces we have to look at. But there's only a couple that are really critical, and the critical ones, probably the best way to identify it is that there are objects, obstacles, and obstructions. An object is obviously anything: a tree, a building, a tower. Obstacles are one of those objects that may penetrate up through the surface, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's an obstruction, because only the FAA can define or determine whether an object penetrating one of these surfaces is an obstruction. An obstruction is something that's going to create an issue for the airport in terms of operational performance, maybe restrict aircraft operations and things like that. So anyhow, without dragging that on, we looked at all the runway ends carefully, and there's only one runway end that's really an issue, and it's very minor, depending on how easy it will be to clear the trees. And can I share my screen, Mike? Do you have to give me permission?
I don't know that I have to give you permission, but.
Well,
Yeah.
let me try here. Host has disabled my screen sharing.
All right, let me go into the settings. Hold on.
You have to make him host.
You don't want to do
Now you're beyond my pay grade.
that. What I'd like to
Only
do
one.
is
Only one. Hold on. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Try that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let me know when you can see that.
I'm looking at it.
Looking at it.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. Just let me show you what you're looking at. Obviously, runway 32. Okay. And the pink lines, okay, represent what we call, the FAA calls an obstacle clearance surface. This is a critical surface because any object that penetrates that surface is considered an obstruction to the FAA and must be dealt with. If you can't clear it, then you have to take action to make sure that it's no longer an obstruction. And the only way you can really do that for this runway is you move the landing threshold further down. If this pink surface starts right at the landing threshold, you move it down. Again, that surface is sloping upward at a 20-to-1 slope. So you keep moving it until the obstructions go away. Now, the obstructions are identified by different colored tags, okay? Red and pink tags are obstructions that are actually above the surface, as well as yellow ones. The yellow one means it's somewhere between 0 and 5 feet above the surface. And the red and pink ones over here, okay, by Dunkin' Donuts, are between 5 and 10 feet, or actually 5 feet and above, okay? The white ones and the blue ones, and I don't see any, and some green ones, they're actually below the surface, but getting close, okay? So the ones we're immediately concerned with are the ones that are above the surface, and they must be dealt with. Again, the only other way to get around is either close the runway or you shift the landing surface further down until that 20-to-1 slope is above them. So again, a little education, the white hash marks are existing easements that the airport owns, okay? And the orange hash marks are easements that we're going to recommend that you obtain, okay? Now you have 3 trees or some, these markers here don't necessarily indicate an individual tree or a pole. It could be a cluster because the system is not so well refined that it can pick out individual trees in a cluster. So there could be a couple of trees in there. The red one is a telephone pole. So we know that. And that one we think we can deal with by working with the power company by having them lower it slightly. We obviously can't go down and cut it down. That wouldn't make a lot of people happy. But the pink ones do have to be dealt with. You can see one is probably inside an existing easement. The other 2, there's actually 2 more in there, are right on the line or inside this property here. This is Dunkin' Donuts in there. So that would have to be dealt with through either an easement, a navigation easement, or you can go in there and you can talk to the owners and say, hey, here's the problem. We'd like to top or clear these trees. The problem with getting the federal government to pay for it is that you have to have an easement. They will not pay a penny to clear a single tree unless you own the property rights. So in this case, it might be easier to talk to the owners. We're recommending easements up here, partial easements, because some of these trees are young. Randy Christensen, who you should know, I believe you all know, our environmental scientist, feels that some of these trees in here are young enough that they'll continue growing. So you might as well deal with them sooner rather than later. The problematic one might be down here, okay, in this watershed of the town's water supply. It's not a tall penetration, and Randy believes that the tree or trees, there could be several in there, can probably be dealt with just through topping. They won't have to be cleared. He says these are mature trees. They're probably done growing, or we're going to grow very slowly. So he believes this one can be dealt with without getting an easement. And again, we haven't identified the exact owners in there, but we know it's close to this watershed. So I'm not an environmental specialist, so don't ask me any detailed questions on it. But again, we think we can deal with this. So I think the bottom line is, the good news is there's not a whole lot that we have to worry about. There are a lot of penetrations of the other surfaces around the airport, but we don't have to deal with them, okay? But these do have to be dealt with. So there's one other surface I didn't show you, and that's down here. I'll be familiar with the PAPI system. It's a precision approach path indicator light system. It sits right here. That provides a visual guidance for pilots. It provides the pilots with a visual glide slope. I don't have that plan pulled up right now, but there are some obstructions to that surface. But again, they're off to the right side or the pilot's left side as they're approaching, and we think they can be dealt with very easily as well through a number of different mechanisms. So anyhow, all in all, good. It's good. We're going to wrap up this report. We have the report written. We just have to go through and clean it up and then reference all these different figures. There's probably about 20 different figures that'll be in the report showing the FAA and everybody else the obstructions around the airport. But again, getting down to the nitty gritty, these are the issues that we're going to have to deal with as soon as possible. I hope I didn't over explain that. And do you have any questions for me?
I thought the graphics were very helpful.
Good. Yeah, it's hard for people to visualize because it's it's a 2-dimensional. Just remember this surface here, this pink surface, does slope upward and outward at about a 20-to-1 slope. The blue line, there's different surfaces for different runways depending on the types of operations. The blue line represents a surface used for runways where the aircraft have a 50 knot or slower landing approach speed. The FAA's feeling is that the faster aircraft are flying and the lower they have to get because of weather conditions, the more critical the surface becomes. So we did show this blue surface in there for slower aircraft. That would be another option. We actually had to do that in Pittsfield this past fall because of the obstructions there. you can see there's nothing inside the blue lines. It's clear. So, but the problem is Mike would have to NOTAM the airport, and only runway 32 could only be used by a very few aircraft, because most aircraft don't land that slow. The pink line is for the much faster aircraft, all aircraft that can land on this runway during day and night visual conditions. This runway, of course, is a visual runway. So just in case somebody was wondering what that pink line was for.
So would your recommendations be like the spring or summer or ASAP or?
We're going to get the report to the FAA, and the FAA will make that decision, okay? But it should become a top priority. Mike and Dom and Randy had a meeting, I think last week. We talked about some of the ways we should approach this. And I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the initial approach is to approach the owners and say, hey, here's the situation. This is what we'd like to do. So.
Yes, and part of the discussion was if we feel that there's any pushback that they will not give us the easement, as Irv said, the FAA will not pay for anything that doesn't have an easement over it, that the state and the airport would just simply pay for it themselves between the 80-20 split to get it done.
So
Right.
Mike, would you, when you go and speak to them, would you bring a letter, or would you send a little person and speak to them, or?
Honestly, the parcel number 90, I probably should not be the person speaking to that body right there,
Okay,
because they don't like me.
that's what Dunkin' Donuts is, correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
But you have Dunkin' Donuts stock, don't you?
I should, but they were
Fair enough.
erecting poles and stuff in violation of our airspace. And I
Right.
shut down the Mass Electric, and that held up that project for a good 8 to 9 months, I believe. And they had various people reach out to me, and I said, I'll sit with you and I'll talk with you. But let me tell you, they have to get that thing permitted. They have to do their 7460. They have to determine what's a hazard to aviation. And I'm not there. Someone else needs to go approach them. I'll talk to 74 or anyone else, but I just think from the standpoint of negotiation, it would not be wise for me to be the one who broaches the topic with them.
Now, if they don't want to, couldn't we always go in front of the town and ask the town to have them?
If they don't want to, you can take it by eminent domain. The airport commission has eminent domain powers. So that's our fallback.
Okay,
It's going to obviously be some most likely pushback on their part in the evaluation of the space. We're not taking the property. We're just taking the air right above it
right.
over a certain height, right, Irv? So
That's right. That's correct.
So I don't think the value is great,
No.
but who knows? I think parcel 90 would fight just to be obstructionist to the process. I think they'll say, yeah, we're going to get a pound of flesh out of you like you did us. But worst case scenario, the commission has eminent domain authority, and they could take it by eminent domain.
Okay. I mean,
And in that particular case, you wouldn't have to have the whole lot. You would just want to go in and take a small piece.
right.
Yeah, the vegetation is really over in that back corner where the flag is.
I mean, when the time comes, I wouldn't mind. I would go and talk to him if Irv or Bob or Dominic, one of them want to come with me to speak with me. That would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'll meet you over at the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. If we make it there.
Yeah.
All right, good job, Irv. Thank you.
Well, thank
Any
you.
other commissioners have questions?
Okay, I'll give you a quick update on the master plan. Since the last time we spoke, the FAA has, if you recall, I said we were waiting for the FAA to approve the forecast. The FAA has to approve two elements of the master plan, the forecast and the airport layout plan, which comes a little bit later on. Michelle Ritchie with the FAA, who is our representative, did tentatively approve the forecast last week. She wanted some additional language in it about COVID-19. So Mike and I talked, and Mike shared me with the operational data for last year. The original data in the forecast was up to about the middle of last summer, early, maybe late spring. And we could see the uptick back then, but when Mike provided me the data, it became obvious that COVID-19 was not having a negative impact on the airport. Whether that's a positive impact because of COVID, I can't tell, but the impact is positive. I rewrote the language in it to indicate that, and I had to make some adjustments to the forecast, a little more aggressive looking forward in terms of operations. And I just sent that off to Michelle and the rest of the crew at MassDOT and the FAA and Mike that are reviewing it. So unless she has a big beef with it, I don't see any problem. So the next step is for me to get the facility requirements wrapped up. We have been working on it, but we couldn't release it yet. And we're going to get moving along, and we're going to have to probably schedule our first meeting probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks if we can, Mike.
Okay.
So again, we're getting on a very tight timeline because we have to get this wrapped up by summer because of the grant deadline. So,
Okay.
But we should be okay. I don't see a problem. I've submitted the first couple of chapters. We do have a tech editor that's reviewing the documents to make sure I misplace a period or a comma or misspell something when they get to attend occasionally. She's going to start going through it. She'll go through each chapter. So,
Bob, that's please.
so, but anyhow, we're in good shape right now, and hopefully next month I can report a little more to you. And a couple, I forgot again. I apologize which members are on the planning committee, but at some point we'll be getting some documents to you to start reviewing.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions, commissioners?
No questions.
No? Well,
No
thank you very much, Irv.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Bob. I'd like to just comment on one other thing, just for everybody's situation awareness.
Sure, absolutely.
As you all know, and this is all good, last year, as has happened for many, many years with MassDOT Aeronautics, they have an annual pavement program. Obviously, last year, the airport benefited from that significantly. I've had some initial discussions with them for this year. Although, as the airport manager has indicated, there's a little bit of uncertainty as to where dollars will fall for all their programs. We have had some initial discussions with respect to that, and considering maybe a limited amount of dollars. The Massport Aeronautics folks have thought about a program to a more concise way at fewer airports. And right now, we're hoping that Lawrence will be the recipient of anything that occurs this year. Certainly, 523 has been in service for a few years now as part of their PCI program, their pavement condition index. They want to make sure that they get for the benefit of not only their dollars and FAA, but the benefit of the airport's dollars, the maximum amount of return as far as longevity. So there's a hope, and obviously that won't be reality until we find out. There's a hope that there will be some additional work that we can do at the airport as part of their annual pavement management program. So let's keep our fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens over the next 2 months as they hone in on dollars and what they have available.
Thank you. Any questions for Bob? No?
I can also give a quick update
Yes,
on the other
please.
few projects we have going on. So the airfield lighting vault, not really a whole lot to report on that, but we are still anticipating that Cullen Electric, the contractor, is going to probably start work sometime in late March or early April. The security upgrades project, Commissioner Foley covered that pretty well. We did have a good meeting with MassDOT and Mike and Christine and the design team members from Stantec yesterday. And like Mike and Commissioner Foley said, no major changes really came out of that meeting other than adding a few cameras on the airfield for better viewing of the runway ends. And they did have some good comments that we'll make sure to incorporate when we move to final design. Other than that, for that project, I think it's just waiting and hoping that they can find the funds to construct it this year. But I'm not super optimistic either, but hopeful at least, I guess.
Dom, if I may, just, and I forgot to say this, but remember that this is 100% funded by the state. So there's no local share from the airport required for this. So the design of 186,000 is paid for 100% by the state, and the construction of 650 will be paid 100% by the state. So we are all hoping it will go forward, but we're also realists.
Yep.
Any questions for
Yeah.
Don?
I have one other project that's a new project that we just met with FAA and MassDOT last week to discuss, and it's a permitting project which will involve extending taxiway Charlie up to taxiway Foxtrot, so kind of make a full-length parallel taxiway on that side of 1432. And it will eliminate the hotspot at the intersection of taxiway Delta and runway 523. And basically a hotspot is a location on the airfield that's just an increased risk for collisions. And that permitting project will also include some of the tree removal work that Irv discussed at the approach end of runway 32. And that's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
No questions.
Anyone have any questions?
No questions.
You did that great, Don.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, commissioners, anybody have any comments or concerns? No? All right, our next meeting will be February 18th.
We need to let the record show that Danya has just joined the meeting.
Hi, Danya.
Hi, Danya.
Hi, Danya.
Danya, you can be the one to make a motion to adjourn, Danya. No, anybody have any questions or concerns? No? If not, we'll see everybody February 18th. Same time, same place. Zoom.
Look forward to it.
I know.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion on the floor to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn this time.
Yes, Commissioner Castillo, second.
Where's Danya?
Yeah, we see.
Danya,
Danya, welcome, Danya.
Danya, you can make it, and I second it.
Danya, you can second it.
She had a little trouble with her audio coming on. It's
Yeah.
still,
Oh, she's off.
I think she just dropped off.
Do we have a
Oh,
second?
she's coming back on now. That would be nice to have her second it.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you, well, let's vote on that.
Danya, you there?
Let her do it.
Danya, can you hear us?
No,
You don't have it muted, do you, Mike?
No. No.
Danya. It's gone.
Nope. She hasn't connected with the audio.
Yeah,
She was having problems.
yeah, it doesn't show it, Mike.
Yeah.
Although sometimes it's difficult. I had a call today. It wasn't on Zoom, it was GoToMeet. And it was just really difficult. And it's not like we didn't know. So sometimes it,
I know, she's on her iPhone too, so maybe she didn't hit the audio.
That could be it. Well, I don't want to keep everybody.
All right, so do we have a second?
I'll second it on behalf of Danya.
Oh, thank you very much, Commissioner Kodamaj.
There you
All
go.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, she's coming on.
oh,
Well,
good.
everybody,
She's on. Danya, you there? Oh, she muted herself.
Next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danya,
Okay,
welcome.
have
The
a
meeting.
great night and a great month. And anybody else?
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night and great month.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See you next month, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. See you next month.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
See you tomorrow, Mike.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Take care. Yeah, I am.